On the 7th of January 2022, the Boston Celtics were on the outside looking in at not only the playoffs but even the play-in tournament. They sat 11th in the East with a record of 18-21, and with the Eastern Conference being as competitive as it's ever been, there was a lot of concern that the Celtics might have missed the postseason for the first time since the 2013-14 season. But fast forward a couple months, the Boston Celtics are now firmly in the playoff picture. They now sit 5th in the East with a record of 14-27, winning 17 out of their last 20 games. So how did they manage to do this total 180? Well, it was done with stellar defense, good coaching, a few key trades, and fantastic individual and team offensive performances. So with their recent run of good form looking more like consistency rather than just a fluke, here's why I think the Boston Celtics are true contenders to come out of the Eastern Conference. But guys, quickly before we get into the video, please remember, as always, to give this video a like, share and subscribe. I'll greatly appreciate any support you're willing to give. And also, if you don't mind, give me a follow on Instagram and TikTok at SportsButCasually as well. Both links to my socials will be in a link tree in the description below. And without any further ado, let's get into the video. The Celtics enter this season with a new president of basketball operations and a new head coach, as after Danny Ainge retired, their current head coach Brad Stevens replaced him. And for his replacement, Stevens selected Ime Udoka, a former assistant coach of the Spurs, Nets and 76ers. In his new role, Stevens made a few moves to help improve this roster, most notably trading for Josh Richardson, trading away Evan Fournier, and signing Dennis Schroeder. But thankfully, not for $80 million. But enough backstory. At the start of the season, the Celtics were not having any fun. Like, at all. They blew 4 leads of 19 or more points, and this team had a real lack of ball movement and playmaking. Guys just seemed to lose focus in the middle of games, and they just didn't seem interested from time to time. To sum it up, nothing was clicking for them. They even held a players-only meeting, which I don't think helped that much. Things got so bad that people were calling for the Celtics to break up the Jays. Which great idea, fantastic idea. Let's break up the 2 best young two-way players in the entire league. Revolutionary. These issues were often called out to the media by Udoka, whose tough love approach to the media was certainly different from what fans have grown accustomed to with Brad Stevens. But Udoka wasn't really killing it in his first few months on the job. His rotations were questionable, at best. He would often get a little too deep into his bench for my liking, and he was no stranger to, the boneheaded play calling and decisions from time to time. However, he's a rookie head coach who's had to deal with tons of expectations. I mean, come on, he was the chosen successor to one of the best current coaches in the entire league. He was inheriting a team with a lot of young talent who's been to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 out of the last 5 years. So, yeah, it's a pretty tough job if you ask me. On top of all that, he had to deal with a lot of injuries and health concerns to his key players like Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and Jaylen Brown. And to his credit, even despite all the hiccups, he had the Celtics respectable. Defensively anyway. So with all this turmoil, how did they manage to turn things around so quickly? First, they got healthy. Before the 23rd of January, the Celtics only had their starting 5 available to play 12 of their first 47 games, where they had a record of 7-10. Since then, they've played a total of 28 games, holding a record of 22-6. But their main calling card over these last few months has been their defense, which is a stifling nightmare for opponents to score on. The players have finally grown accustomed to this switch-heavy defensive scheme that Udoka implemented, which they struggled to do so early on. They now hit their stride, which has resulted in them locking up their opponents, throwing away the key with no chance of parole. To tell you how good things have been, their starting 5 holds the best defensive rating and net rating among 5-man lineups who've played more than 200 minutes together. But I really wanted to add to that. I wanted to see how dominant this 5-man lineup has been among the entire league, among the rest of 5-man lineups. So I came up with my own criteria. I decided to look for 5-man lineups that have played more than 15 games together and who've played more than 8 minutes per game together. Lineups that have been used throughout the league so far. I think we played more than 60 something games now and have played a decent chunk of minutes in those games. Yeah, I know, kind of confusing, kind of specific, but it satisfied my needs and I think you guys can see, what I'm going for. But among those 5-man lineups that fit my criteria, the Celtics hold their opponents to the lowest field goal percentage, the second lowest 3-point percentage, and the 8th lowest points per game out of all of them. But honestly, this isn't too surprising once we look at the players on their roster. Let's start with the guards. Marcus Smart is one of the best defensive guards in the entire league. He's already been to 2 all-defensive teams, and he's truly the heartbeat of this defense, with his hustling and willingness to do these little things. Now, we all know Jaylen Brown is one of the best two-way players in the entire league. Yet, I still think he's underrated on the defensive side. While not nearly as good as his backcourt mate is, at 6'6", he can switch on to the bigger players while also using his length to disrupt the faster, smaller guys on the perimeter. In the front court, Tatum is as disruptive as ever on both ends. Just the sheer effort he's able to give on the defensive end, while also being the number 1 option on offense, is truly commendable. The savvy vet Al Horford must have drank from the fountain of youth prior to this season, because he's playing just as good as he did during his first stint in Boston. He usually guards the opposing big men, and while he is getting up there in age, his defensive IQ allows him to hold his own. And he still has the ability to switch off onto other matchups without anything being ruined. Finally, we get to talk about Robert Williams. Time Lord is easily the anchor of this team's defense, with his athleticism and defensive instincts not only allow him to effectively protect the rim, but guard the entire paint. Although he's only 6'8", his frame and strength still allows him to contest and block shots at the summit, while also being able to occasionally switch on and stay with shiftier players on the perimeter. He should definitely get some Defensive Player of the Year votes, for sure. I also gotta show love to Brad Stevens. He made multiple moves before and at the trade deadline to not only reduce luxury tax, but to help round out the roster and address its needs. Trading for Derrick White was a nice, underrated move. While he's not the best shooter, he still provides a lot more defense and playmaking than this team had before. Getting Daniel Theis was also a nice move. A reliable backup big man who's not only familiar with the players and the system that this team is running, but who's a massive upgrade among the big men off the bench. Also shout out Grant Williams. I never knew he could be such a sniper, who's really close to averaging a 50, 40, 90 season. Also big up my boy Payton Pritchard, for no other reason except his nickname. It'll always be funny to me. Going forward, their offense still concerns me though. I find it could be a little too ISO-centered, especially early on in the season, and the playmaking is still a big issue. However, they're letting their defense fuel their offensive improvement. And as simple and self-explanatory as this is, their shots are finally dropping. Over the last few months, their offensive rating, points per game, 3-point percentage, and assists per game have all gone up. Not to mention, the areas and ways they get their points have also increased as well, such as fast break points, points in the paint, and points off turnovers. This is all really good news, as it lightens the scoring load off the Jays, especially Jayson. Early on in the season, Tatum struggled mightily with his efficiency, despite posting good point totals. But guys, them turning this season around was a full team, all-around effort by not only the players, but from the coaches and from the front office. Udoka, after tons and tons of tinkering, has finally found an 8 to 9 man rotation that he's comfortable using. The players have finally started to mesh with not only each other, but the new system. You love to see it. But still, all this improvement is for nothing if they can't contend for a championship. You know, that's actually pretty mean. This improvement is still very important. But anyway, the question that I have, and I'm sure you guys have as well, are they true contenders to come out the East? Personally, I would say yes. But that doesn't mean they're the favorite to come out the East. I mean, the East, as we all know, have a lot of good teams this season. The Bucks, Heat, and 76ers are the three teams in the East that I think have the best chance to make the NBA Finals. But let's not forget the other teams on the tier below them, like the Bulls, the Cavs, and the Nets, who've all been ravaged by injuries this season. If they manage to get healthy, they can give any team a run for their money. I think it's all going to come down to matchups. And in my opinion, I think the Celtics match up very well against all the teams that I named previously. Their defense would allow them to compete against just about anybody this season. It's all going to come down to their offense and if they can score efficiently. That's my main concern with them going forward. Besides health, obviously. But Jayson Tatum has gotten over his early season struggles and is looking like the superstar that we all know him to be. Jaylen Brown is still a fantastic scorer, and Marcus Smart is one of the best defenders at the guard position in the league. Let's not forget, they have two big men that can not only defend at a high level, but can play make out of the post. In addition to their starting five, they have solid bench players and a good coach that's finally starting to click with all of his players. They are on a roll, and now is the best time to start to gain some momentum heading into the postseason. Yeah, I know there's still plenty of basketball left to play. But guys, if you see the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals this postseason, just do me a favor. Try not to act too surprised. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend in case they'll be interested in, a random guy talking about the Celtics. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed yourselves with this video. I shall see you all next time for my future video. Please remember to take care and later.